Hi, greetings everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another edition of Jamie's Journeys. Today, we're going to be showing you sites from two of the great World War II battles in the Pacific, sites of Saipan and also that of Iwo Jima. We're going to begin with Saipan. Now, due to our limited time that we had available to get out and shoot, we weren't able to shoot as much of the island and the World War II battlegrounds as we would have liked. The landing beaches were considerably south of where the ship was docked, and we didn't have the time to get down there to shoot the beaches. So what we did is we focused our time on the northern areas of the island, which is really where the battles ended. So we're going to show you what we were able to shoot in the time we had. But first, I'd like to give you a little review of what took place there. In summary, on June 15, 1944, the island of Saipan was attacked by the United States 2nd and 4th Marine Divisions, who landed along the western lagoon of Saipan. Then 2 days later, the United States Army's 27th Infantry Division landed in support of the invasion and fought along the eastern half of Saipan. As the war progressed, the Americans eventually backed the Japanese forces to its most northern point, where you'll be able to see in our footage some of the mountain views from what is referred to as Suicide Cliffs, and also later the views of Banzai Cliffs, which is about 250 feet above sea level. These sites were where, as estimates ranged up to as much as 10,000 Japanese civilians, soldiers, committed suicide in the last days of the battle. They did so by leaping to their deaths. That was also done by heads of the families who tragically took the women, took the children, and actually forced them to their deaths over the cliffs, often followed by themselves, despite the U.S. Marine translators trying to convince them not to do so. You'll see in our footage some of the Japanese shrines that were erected by the family members and also by the government of the Japanese. You'll see what is referred to as the last command post, where it was said that nearby the Japanese leader Saito, along with his two other commanders, went into a cave and committed hara-kiri. The final stop is made where the American Memorial Park exists. This is a park that commemorates the landings on Saipan, and although the park was not the scene of major fighting during the war, several historic structures are scattered throughout the park, such as Japanese bunkers and also pillboxes. And it is there the American flag flies today, surrounded by the flags of the United States Armed Forces that participated in the battle: the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Army Air Corps. A monument calls to mind the 3,400 United States soldiers who died and over 10,000 troops who were wounded during the conquest, out of a total of 71,000 participants in all. For the Americans, the victory was the most costly to date in the Pacific War. Now we're going to move on to another famous World War II island, that being Iwo Jima. This is where the 7 Seas Voyager paused as many came on deck 6 forward and paid their respects on this beautiful and peaceful morning. The island of Iwo Jima is only 16 square miles, with Mount Suribachi at its southern tip being the most prominent and the most famous feature of the island. The Battle of Iwo Jima took place between the United States and Japanese Empire in February and March of 1945. The invasion was known as Operation Detachment and was charged with the mission of capturing the island's airfields. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here on this calm and peaceful morning to pause for a moment, to remember, to consider, and to pay our respect to the gallant young men who came, who served, who sacrificed, and even paid the ultimate sacrifice, and in giving up a big part, if not all, of their young lives for the cause of freedom. I believe we as a nation, and together with many of the other allied and peace-loving nations, cannot afford to take for granted these great sacrifices, nor can we allow our children or children's children not to learn about the prices these brave people paid for this freedom, for us and for the generations who follow us. We are grateful for all those who served their countries and who now stand on the bow of our ship. To those, may I say that the grateful and peace-loving people before you wish to also acknowledge you for your sacrifices and say something which can never be said enough and isn't. Thank you. Jamie Logan, Cruise Director, 7 Seas Voyager. The battle was marked by some of the fiercest fighting in the Pacific Campaign. The battle was also the first American attack on Japanese soil that is located just 650 nautical miles from Tokyo. As well, the Marines hoisted the flag over Mount Suribachi, which is the first foreign flag to ever fly over Japanese soil. Over 20,000 Japanese soldiers died during the battle. The American forces suffered over 19,000 casualties, with 6,825 killed in action. Iwo Jima was the only U.S. Marine battle where American casualties exceeded the Japanese. Over a quarter of the Medals of Honor awarded to U.S. Marines in World War II were given for conduct in the invasion of Iwo Jima. In closing, In June 2007, the island of Iwo Jima was officially renamed by the Japanese as Iwo II, a name that had been used by local residents before the war. The name was changed on protests from former residents and after two popular films, Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima, referenced the island as Iwo Jima. The Japanese characters for Iwo II and Iwo Jima are the same, but pronunciation changed when Japanese soldiers arrived and pronounced it differently than the residents. And as a final side note, at a time when the island was said to be won, as it later turned out, there were still almost 3,000 Japanese soldiers in hiding on the island. Due to the intricate tunnel system and numerous hiding places, the last of these stragglers to surrender did so on January 6, 1949, almost 4 years later after the battle was won. Thanks for tuning in to the Voyager today and Jamie's Journeys.